Hello and welcome out to this episode of Outbreak Gamers. As I clear my throat, my goodness. I didn't have that frog in my throat before I started talking. Oh, goodness.
That's a
Get the
cool
ticker
intro.
going. I
I
know,
like
right? I know.
it. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. We are very pleased to have with us today 3-Bit. 3-Bit, how you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. Just got off of work and thought I'd hop in the show. I've heard about you like just throughout the scene. Like some of
Mhm.
my friends have been on the show, so I was like, yeah, this will be fun.
Nice, nice. Yeah, well, when I first got started and was talking to Boom about this, he's kind of the one that said, "Hey, if you got an idea, just try it, see what happens." So I
Yeah,
did, and he said, "Make a list of people," and he gave me like 10 starter people, like I should go after first, and you were on
yeah,
the list.
nice.
There's a big list, don't worry, but just the 10 starters, and I'm finally glad that we finally got to work things out to where we could have you on. So I'm really excited about it, in case you haven't noticed. So
Yeah, Boom is awesome. I've been on his show. Like when I first started podcasting,
Mhm.
he was like the first person who kind of gave me an audience, I guess. So I always appreciate Boom. He's awesome, dude.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And he's really good about the kind of paying it forward for everybody, and
Yeah,
that's kind of nice, kind of
yeah.
nice. All
Boom's
right,
amazing.
so 3-Bit, let's get into, I guess, like some of the jobs you might have had growing up.
Yeah, sure. I guess my first job is kind of like my family's business, I guess.
Hmm.
So my family owns an art school in Atlanta. We
Awesome.
started in like 2005, and I started there kind of it's like a weird situation. I started there as like a student, but
Hmm.
also like it was a family business. So I was a student, but also I would help out in the art school, and I still
Hmm.
do to this day. But
Awesome.
I think that's my first job, maybe.
It
I
sounds like
think
a good
yeah.
one to start.
Yeah. So that was probably my first. Either that or maybe being an usher or something in church or
Yeah,
something
well,
like that.
you know, all those kind of jobs are important. Yeah,
Yeah.
all different kinds of people. I can't tell you how many people used to work at Wendy's that I've
Yeah.
interviewed, and I'm like, what? Okay, cool.
I worked
So
at AutoZone. So that was a thing.
there you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I did have an AutoZone. That was a thing I did for a little bit.
Nice, nice, nice. So I guess with the art school, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, what's the name of it?
So my name is Mario, right?
Okay.
Besides 3-bit, and
Right.
it's called a Mario's Art Academy.
Nice.
But it's not based off of me. It's my dad. His name's also a Mario,
Right.
and he was a comic book artist for Marvel. So
That's
growing up,
awesome.
he would show me like how to draw, and he got me really into comics, and then over time, I got into art
Hmm.
because of him,
Yeah.
and so we've been teaching kids since 2005 how to design video games, how to create comic books, and been working with some people from Marvel, and it's been a good time. It's
That
been
is
fun.
awesome. That is awesome. And see, that's the thing I really like about this show is that you don't know sometimes unless you ask
Yeah,
about somebody, and a lot of times you find out some really fascinating things. That's so cool, man. That's
yeah.
very cool. And so are you the third or the second?
I'm the third. Yeah,
I was gonna say,
nice.
is that part of the 3-Bit, or is that just a coincidence?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's a coincidence that I'm 3-bit. I started 3-bit as a name. I had so many different names, but I guess I became 3-bit. It was like my video editing name,
Hmm.
and I would make like Halo montages like years ago,
Wow,
and
cool.
I don't know. I think it just came from me being a fan of like 8-bit games,
Hmm.
and I just like the number three, so it
Yeah.
just like
Uh,
it turned into 3-bit. I guess that's where it came from, but I probably had some other idea
right.
of what it meant in the past, but I can't
Yeah.
remember.
So we'll just kind of wrap all that into the lore, right?
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. That's awesome, though, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Does that, and that's your gamer tag is a little longer than that, though, right?
My gamer tag is iThreeBit.
Yeah,
Yeah. Some
that's cool.
some guy stole my
Oh,
3
bastards.
That's
Cool. Well, just let
yeah,
everybody know we will have your Twitter and your YouTube channel link in here, as well
yeah,
as your so you might be able to hook up with you, maybe play a game or two whenever you have
yeah,
the time to, because I know you're busy.
yeah, for
So we'll
sure, for
put that
sure.
all in the description below for people to check out. Of course, this will also be available on iTunes and Spotify and iHeartRadio as well. So
Yeah, anyone who wants to play, I love competitive games, so like a Halo or Overwatch lately, so
yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah,
the
I'm
new
down.
one, I will watch too. You play
Yeah,
that?
Overwatch
Yeah.
too.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I guess they kind of killed the first one though, didn't they?
Yeah,
They kind of pulled
it's
the rug out
basically
of
the
it.
first, just some fancy paint. It's basically the first
Yeah.
game. It's too
Well, that's cool. I think it gives maybe gives them a place to where they can grow it even bigger from what I understand. But we'll see, right? Time will tell, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, it's pretty
So
smart. Think
yeah,
about
there you go.
it. Yeah,
All right, cool. So let's kind of go into some of your education, from there. Like I mean, obviously you had the school and that was kind of an educational from through the family type. But I
yeah,
mean, I'm sure you went to, some kind of schooling
yeah,
for art.
yeah. So the my dad teaching me helped out a lot. He taught me at like a college level just growing up, and and I talk about this with my sister too. My whole family, they're all artists, right?
Nice.
So growing up, it was more so me. I was very competitive with my sisters. I'm the youngest in my
It
family.
happens.
So it actually fueled my love for art even
Hmm.
more just as a kid. Like, I'm gonna be a better artist than you. And my sister, like, not really caring. She's like, um, so over time, I found my love for art. My sisters and my family, they all do different types of art, which is pretty cool. Um, I have a sister, Aziza. She does murals all throughout Atlanta.
Wow,
Um,
awesome.
my other sister, Akila, she does like fashion design for different companies and
Hmm.
stuff. And then I do animation. So so that's like my background of how I got sort of into art in
Hmm.
general. Like it started off with like comic books, my love for comic books. I did a lot of video editing with like montages for like Halo. Um,
Hmm.
and that's how I learned how to video edit. And over time I realized like, wow, I really like making Master Chief fan videos of him moving and things like that. So
Hmm.
I didn't realize how much I love animation until like later. But the first college I got into was Academy of Art University. It's a school in Cali.
Hmm.
So I did online classes there. My major was game design, and around that time period, I started making a game called Abandoned, which is funny because Sony, I think, had their version of Abandoned, even though I own the copyright and stuff. I won't get
Right.
into it. But I made a game called Abandoned in there, and I really learned that, like, wow, I really like game design.
Hmm.
My roommate at the time, he was an animator. He did a lot of 2D animation and stuff like that, and he brought me into his class one day, and they were all looking at their own animations based on a topic of like just fruit, like
Hmm.
making fruit. Like the topic was animate fruit fighting or something, and everybody in the class came up with all these like super original ideas just from that one topic of like this dramatic war with like just fruits fighting, and whole class was laughing, and I was like, wow, this is animation. Like, this is super interesting.
Hmm.
That you can like create films and stuff like that. So eventually I changed my major to be an animator. And then I left that college to go to SCAD. And that's kind of where I went after. And
Hmm.
then I just finished my year off at SCAD, graduated, created the longest senior film at SCAD,
Cool.
the longest one there in the program. And yeah, and then now I work professionally in the field. So it's pretty cool.
That is awesome. That is very cool. Well, let's turn this obviously to video games. And I guess what was maybe your first video game or your first console or experience with gaming? Is it arcade, PC? What's got it started for you?
So my very first video game, I'm pretty sure it was Barney's Hide and Seek for the Sega Genesis. I'm pretty sure that was my very first game. Um, and then I think right after that it was Streets of Rage. So
Very cool.
I feel very connected to that game, and
I
I think it's
imagine.
super fun. And so I played that on the Sega Genesis 3.
Nice.
So I think that was my first game. And then from there I loved like the N64 with Super Smash Bros. I would
Hmm.
play that all the time. Um, what else? Of course, like on Sega Genesis 3, I would play like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and stuff.
Hmm.
Always leaving my teammates behind. Like if you played the co-op, you had
Yeah.
like Sonic and Tails, and you would leave Tails to die if you go too far. Oh, good times.
It
Um,
sounds like it.
I would always do that.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
what else? Yeah, I mean, I would say I started with the Sega Genesis. That was my first
Hmm.
console, and where I really started to really love gaming was probably around the GameCube. Like when
Hmm.
I got the GameCube, I was like, "Wow, gaming is awesome." That's when I
Yeah.
really started to appreciate it and love it and stuff like that. I would say the first game I sort of went to sleep or it never went to sleep on, like my first all nighter was Spider-Man
Mm.
for N64. It was like that original Activision Spider-Man.
Hmm.
That was probably my first all nighter game. Um, it's funny how I remember all this because I have a terrible memory, but for
Yeah.
like
Certain things
for
just stuck
gaming,
in there, right?
yeah, it's like my milestones. I do remember with gaming. But yeah. Then it went out to the PlayStation 2, Xbox, original Xbox, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had a good gaming experience starting off, and then, like you said, that I guess Halo kind of influenced you a little bit, if or influenced you a little bit, if you did movies based off that, So that's kind of
Yeah.
cool, or animation with that.
If it wasn't for
So,
Halo, I probably wouldn't be in the field right now,
wow.
actually. It was a big part of my life. Like me and my sisters, like we were close growing up, but it was more so like we were still sectioned off doing our own things. And
Hmm.
then Halo was like the one thing that like made me and my sisters really close because they loved Halo too. So I would grew up basically loving Halo because I got to play with them, and we would make our own servers, and people would join, and
Hmm.
we had a really popular server back in the day that people like always it was always just full, and it was just a fun time. It's where I learned how to animate because I wanted to know how do you animate Master Chief, and I'll look up tutorials.
Hmm.
It's like how I learned how to video edit, or make graphic designs because I
Hmm.
would do like fan things of Master Chief and Cortana on
Yeah.
like forums and stuff. So Halo
Was
is actually a
was
big
that
part.
something that you would like upload to like YouTube at the time, or is this that was that pre YouTube for you?
Yeah, I still have a lot of those videos up. Some of them are I don't know why they're so big. There's some really bad videos I made as a kid,
Right.
that are still more popular than any video I pour hours into. I'm like, "Why?"
Wow. Well,
Like I made a
sometimes that's the way that's the way it is with YouTube, especially
yeah,
if it's already got a huge amount of views. When
yeah,
somebody sees that, to think, "Well, I gotta watch that. It's got over 1,000,000 views." So maybe
yeah.
maybe that
I'm
kind of
like, "Wow."
carries them on to it.
Yeah, so I have a couple of those. I made a series called Grunt Wars, and,
Cool.
for some reason, that has, like, a lot of views, so you never know what's gonna click sometimes.
Now, is that those can those be found on your, was it VGHD channel, your Video
This
Game
was
HD?
pre that channel,
Oh, yeah?
so Yeah, I have a lot of channels. That
Nice.
was my first YouTube channel called Nightboy32, and I was maybe 9 or 10 years old when I made it.
I'm gonna have to
So
find that. Put that link in there for people to, if that's okay. You know,
yeah,
a
that's
little
fine.
nostalgia, right? That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fun.
It's funny looking back at some of those videos and like seeing how I thought and like thinking what was cool back then when I was like 10 years old making dumb videos. So
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Oh, I'm with you.
yeah.
But that's cool. That's cool though. I mean, I know like when I was what first started, I guess podcasting was 6 years ago. Just still have a podcast, but we started out. We just did iTunes for the
Yeah.
longest time, and then somebody's like, you should really put that on, YouTube. I'm like, oh, okay, people watch that,
Yeah.
and it's like the first couple of videos we put up were like maybe one still camera like on my face or something or on the person we were interviewing,
Yeah.
and it was just horrible looking back, nothing like this.
Yeah, this is man, I like this setup. I'm in like in outer space. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Floating in here, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so cool. So I guess with that, let's kind of talk about the if you don't mind, the I guess some of the like podcasts you've been on, you've actually, you're I've seen you several times like
Yeah.
on Fun Speculation, and you were talking earlier like you started off on like Boom Show and stuff. So let's talk about some of the different places you've been a guest on
Yeah.
or regular as well.
Yeah. So when I first started to podcast, like first I'll say why I started to podcast. So during the pandemic is when basically discovered my love for podcasting.
Mhm.
I was bored just trying to figure out what to do, right?
Amen.
And I just stumbled upon a few amazing shows. Like I stumbled upon Randall Thor and Jez, and I've podcasted a few times with them. They're great. Um, and Boom. So Boomstick was one of the podcasts I found when I was just looking up gaming podcasts.
Mhm.
And I straight up asked him. I was like, "Hey, can I join on the show?" I had like no videos on my channel at the time.
Mhm.
I had maybe one follower on Twitter. So I was surprised that Boom even like messaged me back. He was like, "Yeah, sure." Which is why I'll always like give props to Boom because
Mhm.
I had like it just goes to show you that he really just wants to give people a voice. Because I had one follower on Twitter. I just joined Twitter at the time,
Mhm.
and I didn't have any YouTube videos around that time. And then he made me a member of Xbox Factor. So I was a member of Xbox Factor for maybe a year or so,
Nice.
and then I joined Mav's show through me guesting on another show
Mhm.
with Mads Gaming.
Mhm.
So I joined Mav's crew and we grew really close, and he's like my brother, and we
Nice.
have done so many shows together at that point with Fun Pop and Xbox Ultimate and
Mhm.
FSP. So over time I just got really busy. Honestly, like work started picking up. I got pretty like 2 or 3 jobs at once.
That's great.
Yeah, and I was like, dang, I can't podcast as much as I used to. Got into a relationship, so like all that stuff, you're just like, well, dang.
Yeah,
I
I'm
used to
with
podcast
you.
like every day, and it just got harder. So now I'm pretty much I've been bought exclusively by the Fun Speculation channel. He acquired me for 3 million. I was kidding.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'm just on his channel
Alright, that's
for
cool.
now. But I love appearing when I can.
Right.
Uh, I love this community. I think I met a lot of cool friends and a lot of open minded people and
Oh,
stuff. So
yeah. Yeah.
it's been a good time.
And you had said in the when we were in the green room talking about that you had been on like the Iron Lords podcast.
Yeah,
Those guys are amazing.
yeah,
I've had King on here. I've interviewed King David. Still got to get around to the rest of the guys, but one step at a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, once I started figuring out, like, my love for podcasts, I was like, "Man, I'm gonna be on every show," and I was on a lot of shows,
Hmm.
around that time period. I was on Iron Lords for a bit and, for 1 or 2 episodes, I think, and that was a really fun show. I think, Cog just messaged me one day when I had a really strong opinion about I can't remember. It was like something going on around that time, and I
Hmm.
had a long post about it on Twitter, and he was like, "You should come on the show and talk about it," and I did. And
There you
I
go.
was very passionate.
Oh yeah.
um, and yeah, yeah, I've a podcast with a lot of these guys, and it's fun because it's like a small community, but at
Hmm.
the same time, it's I don't know, it can feel big and small at the same time.
Right.
Like you see the same people in the chat, like you see your podcast with similar people and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's fun time.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I mean, like you talked about like Randall Thor, who
Yeah,
I'm not name dropping, but I've interviewed him as well.
yeah,
I've been blessed to interview him. He's great. But like like you said that sometimes I've interviewed people that may have a couple hundred views, but they're passionate about being out there and being on different podcasts. And I'm like, cool.
yeah,
Let's know more about you. And then like Randall Thorn 18. I mean, he's friends with Phil. Hung out with Phil. Got
yeah,
flown to E3 type thing for his when he did the million. So and that's kind of like I guess like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon type thing, where you're like,
yeah,
but there ends up being in this community, there's a lot of people that are really, I guess, you know, like I've interviewed like Dealer, who like
yeah,
Tim Dog, who's like real good friends with Aaron Greenberg, and
yeah,
those kind of things. It's like it's neat, even though I would never try and I never try and angle myself into like, hey, if you know him, give old Phil a message from me. No, no, no. I go through proper channels and we'll see what happens in the future.
yeah. And these guys
But
they're all very like passionate about games and the
yeah.
game community. So it's really cool on the Xbox side of things um where you're able to even contact these people, right? It's
Hmm.
kind of rare in a community, a gaming community. Like I can't go up to Nintendo Twitter and be like, "Hey, where is this game?" or is this they're
Right.
just, there's a separation in a lot of different gaming communities. So the fact that Xbox, you have Aaron Greenberg like messaging people or
Oh yeah.
Phil Spencer playing games with people sometimes. It's
Hmm.
it's it's pretty cool.
Yeah. If you reach out to Nintendo and that's
Just
kind of what you hear from it. Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, I will get back to me. No. So yeah, no, I'm I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
That but it is a good community. It is pretty awesome. So I guess with some of the podcasting stuff you done, you kind of had to step away.
yeah,
Now I want to tread lightly on my next question, but I just kind of want to what you feel comfortable talking about or what you can
yeah,
talk about. But I guess with that, you've been able to do some video game designing and like at the bottom at the on the marquee that you approved, it's got some places you work for, and
yep,
then there's one that stands out to me. It says designer at Fable,
yep.
so that's got to be fun.
Yeah. I would say like it's been a fun ride. I basically stopped podcasting and I did some stuff with Ubisoft for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely a crazy ride. And
Mm-hmm.
I left there doing more work with Meta Studios. They're a small production company in Atlanta. And Meta Studios, they pretty much they handle a comic book series called Fairy Quest,
Nice.
and so I was helping out with that a little bit. Um, and the CEO of that company is Paul Jenkins, and he taught me a lot. He was like a mentor to me in a lot of ways. He is the creator of Sentry. He created. He was a co-creator of Ninja Turtles.
Wow.
Um, he created the Civil War storyline in Marvel. Like he's like he's amazing. He's
Right.
definitely
Yeah.
amazing. And so I was working with him for a bit, and eventually I got a job at a advertising firm. So pretty much my current job, besides Fable, which I'll get into in a second,
Yep.
um, is to animate the Aflac duck. So
Very cool.
so whenever you see the duck and he's CG, I'm,
Hmm.
as far as I know, the only animator working on him. So um, it's a fun gig,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's a lot that is involved with the brand of Aflac, and they take their they take their brand with pride, and it's really cool seeing the whole behind the scenes, I guess, of a big company like that, and
Hmm.
how they really care about their customers, and what's the best way to show it, and everything. So in those meetings, almost 80% of the time, my work with Fable is actually wrapping up. So I work as a designer,
Hmm.
contracted designer, and there's a lot of talented teams
Oh yeah.
over at the Fable team. So that I don't even know how that happened. It just kind of, it just felt like it fell into my lap after Ubisoft, and I
Right.
just jumped for it and took it, and I'm doing a lot right now. I'm also teaching, so it's just like
Very
it
cool.
made it harder to podcast for sure, but
Right. Right.
I still love to do it and talk about it, and yeah, so it was a good time.
Definitely, definitely. And and what's what you talked about, like the Aflac duck. I mean, I've seen a lot of those commercials,
Yeah,
like a lot of people have. And, I to be honest, I never really noticed. And I'm sure it makes sense. Obviously, you train a duck to do some things and you figure they just like 50 shots and you catch what you can, edit what you need.
yeah.
But like you said, you go in there and you got them and you animate them. So that's kudos, because I really never knew that he was animated in any part. So good job.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
That's cool.
it's super cool. Like you'll have different videos where it'll be the duck interacting with Deion Sanders,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like Deion Sanders, Coach Saban,
Mhm.
and Wanda Sykes. It's like a couple of different actors,
Yeah.
and I'll get like footage of them like talking with nothing, and then it's my job to fill in the gaps of how the duck is going to interact, and it's super fascinating of when the duck is supposed to say Affleck, when he's not supposed to say Affleck. Like, there's this whole
Mhm.
sort of internal language of when the duck's supposed to speak, how he should act,
Mhm.
so that's always fun to sort of figure out. Usually I record myself doing like duck movements and then try to
Right.
animate it, stuff like that. So that's a very fun part of my job, is sort of figuring that out.
Now that would be some footage that someday when you retire,
Yes. Yeah,
we
there's
would
a lot.
love to see that. Even if it's just a little snippet.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of footage of me just pretending to be a duck and just like quack,
Yeah.
quack, trying to walk around like a duck, and then
Well, it
I'm
helps gives
taking.
you a reference, right? Like a storyboard type thing as to how to design a scene. That's awesome. I mean, it makes sense. It's smart. So
Yeah, most animators, believe it or not, like most animators in a lot of different video games that you see, if they don't mocap it, there's probably reference of them doing that action somewhere on their computer. So just keep that in mind whenever you see like really cringy scenes. There's probably a reference out there of an animator.
that's pretty
Yeah.
funny. That's pretty funny. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. So I guess, and when you the some of the, I guess, the work you did for um oh my gosh, you had said it, the first
Yubi?
company, Ubisoft.
Ubisoft.
Yes. Drawing a blank, sorry. My head's full of questions. So I guess was that I don't, like I said, we don't want to get any particulars because I don't want to get, any kind of that kind of stuff. But I mean, was it like after you've done the work and
Mhm.
then you get to see what you've done, like in a
Yeah.
game, or even like the Affleck was on the TV, and you see your work. I mean, what? And
Yeah.
it's got to be rewarding. I mean, it's got to be like,
Yeah. It's definitely rewarding because it's rewarding to kind of just like you finish it and you kind of forget about it, right? Because it
mm-hmm,
goes through approvals, it goes through changes you might not even know about, different meetings and stuff like that. So
mm-hmm,
to kind of step away, like a lot of the stuff I worked on for Ubisoft, I just started seeing recently. So it's like I don't know, it's a weird feeling to see
mm-hmm.
your work, like wow, I have that file on my computer. Like,
That's
it's
so
just
cool.
it's really, it's hard to pinpoint how it feels, but it is definitely rewarding,
Yeah.
to see, to work for a company like Ubisoft and, like, I play your games, and all of a sudden, like, that's, something I helped with.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but, it's definitely rewarding.
That's very cool. That's very cool. I can see it now and be like, Mac, did you play this part? Did you do the part? Ah, well, that was me. I did
See that thing in the
it.
corner? That was
Yeah.
me.
That was me.
Because
That's
these
all
are
me.
massive teams, right? Especially Ubisoft.
Right.
There's hundreds of different teams, that you interact with every day,
Mm-hmm.
and all these people are super talented, and they, um, are really passionate about what they do. You have people inside of UB that are, um, they're just I'm trying not to say too much, but, like,
Right,
there are
right,
a lot
right.
of people within UB who are very passionate about what they do and trying to, they're just fans, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of developers are fans, and they got into the industry because they played games growing up and they want to do the same.
Like
Uh,
yourself, creative and want an outlet, and then to be able to do it with something that you're very passionate about,
yeah,
enjoyed growing up playing games, and all of a sudden making games. That's like I said, that's awesome. That's very cool.
yeah,
Very cool, dude.
yeah.
So very
It's
impressed.
definitely fun.
Nice.
I would say like the the biggest gaming, the gaming crowd is interesting with
Yeah.
how they receive feedback, right?
Right.
And you have to, like, I'm always on the side where if something is good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad, to sort of own up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see the latter where devs don't allow criticism. They're like, we're devs, and like we're no different than like a average gamer or a person. Like we're still human.
Mm-hmm.
You can still be like I believe everyone can be criticized, even devs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're allowed to criticize a game if you find they are monetizing something that shouldn't be in there, or you're like this game's kind of broken, or I feel
Mm-hmm.
like um you're allowed to say stuff like that. Where I don't like is when you get like disrespectful, like I'm gonna kill
Right.
your family,
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff
That's
like
bad.
yeah, that's the bad side, but I'm always a component of like, yeah, if a game's not working out as supposed to, like you're paying money, anything you pay money for,
Mm-hmm.
right? You deserve some sort of criticism if it's not what you expect. So
Right. All right. Cool. Well, let's kind of open it up just a little bit here as we start to wrap things up.
sure.
To kind of I guess well let me think about how I'm going to word this one. But I get well, it's not that bad. It's just a matter of I don't think it would affect you, but we'll throw this out there anyway. You let me know.
Yeah,
I guess like the big thing in the industry right now, which when this goes up and then probably for months afterwards, it'll still be a current topic, is
yeah,
the acquisitions that are happening in the
yeah,
industry, the consolidation, current, Activision, King Blizzard deal that's going on. Plus, we've heard that when that's done, they're not done yet. They're ready to go with another one or
yeah,
something of that nature. And then, there's rumors that, well, not necessarily rumors, but Sony's not finished either. And some of these other companies, they're going to want to get their hands, and get themselves in a position going forward, for the gaming industry. So
yeah.
what are some of your thoughts on the current situation, maybe with ABK, and then maybe I guess um where you think this is all going in the future?
I think For one, yeah, I think you're right. Microsoft is not done acquiring studios. I think they are, and all these views are mine,
Of course.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yes,
I
yes,
don't, I
yes.
don't have any like insider knowledge of like which studios Microsoft is
Right.
going to acquire. I'm not in that division at all. I'm just a designer.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I want to press to clarify that, like you just said.
yeah,
This is just a one-on-one conversation
yeah,
because you're a gamer, not necessarily that you work on games, but you're a
yeah.
gamer, and that's the perspective I'm trying to pull from you.
Yeah. So I think Microsoft's going to acquire more. Sony's going to acquire more, and it's pretty much just an acquisition race right now. And Microsoft has put themselves in a position where they are just trying to grow Game Pass, no matter what platform it's on. If they can put on PlayStation, I'm sure they would.
Right.
Put Game Pass on PlayStation. So their goal is to basically have their ecosystem on like everything, kind of like how Windows is the default for many computers.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have a Mac and stuff like that, but
Mm-hmm.
Windows, I mean, at least at most offices, some companies have a Mac, but then it has a thing to so Windows runs on a Mac, right? So Windows is
Right.
just very popular and it's on a lot of different devices. And I think Microsoft's plan is just accessibility, being able to get your game anywhere, whether it's your phone, your TV, um, and bringing people into your ecosystem. I think Sony has a sort of old mindset, but they're starting to realize, like, oh, actually, yeah, let's start worrying about like live service games and things like that, which is
Mm-hmm.
a big part of their focus lately. But Sony has sort of a focus where keeping things sort of locked down for a bit, um, and not letting people sort of. But they're allowed to do that. They're number one, right?
Yep.
They are number one, and it's working for them. I think Jim Ryan is very smart with his comments. He's a businessman, and he knows what he's doing in that regard. So. Um, I think in terms of the studios being bought, it's going to happen more and more, and
Mm.
um, it's not a monopoly. This industry is huge, and it has if even if Microsoft buys Capcom or another big company,
Mm-hmm.
there's still so much competition out there, and I think it'll just make the industry better overall. Actually,
Agreed.
um, the acquisitions I believe makes the industry better because it makes other companies want to compete or make themselves um, wanting to be acquired. And there are some companies who are going under, like Activision wasn't doing particularly well.
Mm-hmm.
Bethesda I thought was it was a very good purchase because they start to have to make decisions um that they didn't really want to do. Like they wanted to for example, Wolfenstein Old Blood, I think, where they wanted
Mm-hmm.
to introduce this different DLCs that they didn't really want to make, or online mechanics for like Fallout 76. Like they had to make those decisions because um it it's financial reasons, right?
Right.
To survive, you have to do things to survive. So, a partnership with Microsoft, $1 trillion company, makes it so that company can thrive, and their DNA as a company, they can make the games they actually want to make.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's why I think acquisitions are good. It create you have talented studios, but maybe they have to make certain decisions just to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're acquired, maybe they don't have to. So overall, I think it's just good competition.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with you. I think like where I guess the Bethesda purchase was they were I guess at a certain point in making the game when they were required. obviously they ended up delaying it,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that COVID and other things, fall into place. But yet Microsoft, being the financial powerhouse that they are, and and the money they have available to the resources with other devs and stuff, to give the game more time to be polished, grown, work out the bugs so that when it doesn't
Yeah.
release in a not great state, Now, of course, expectations are extremely high when it does release now.
Yeah. For sure.
It definitely won't. I don't think many people will be cutting them any slack if there's,
Yeah.
it's running
But
at 20
they
frames per second. What?
I
No.
think I think next year and the year after it's just going to be a domino effect
Hmm.
of games that are coming out from Microsoft. Like this wasn't the best year
Right.
for Microsoft, but the fact that they did delay some of these games just shows to me that that's a new Microsoft. Like
Yeah.
instead of them being like desperate and releasing those games, the fact that they did delay it, to me was like a brand new Microsoft because they are trying to have like basically a content um bubble of for Game Pass.
Hmm.
Um basically releasing Redfall and then Starfield, and then eventually you'll get Avowed, and then eventually get Fable, and
Hmm.
all of these different games, and it'll just keep going and going. So I would say 2022 was a bad year for them,
Right.
um, in terms of first party um, exclusives, but I'm pretty sure that this will be the last time you could say that. Like, because going forward, it's going to be almost overwhelming. 2023 is an overwhelming year for
Yeah.
um, a lot of games that's about to drop. So,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As a gamer like yourself,
yeah,
it's like this is the good times are coming.
yeah,
Yes, and like Pong Soul says a lot. This is almost like he says it's the golden age of
golden
gaming.
age of game.
Yeah, and it, as sometimes as silly as it sounds, it's like I think he's on to something.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll look back at this generation and be like, holy crap, look what
yeah,
happened.
and it's really cool. Like I would say, eh, I've criticized Microsoft for this in the past, but it's something I'm sorry, as I'm working for them, I realize certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, something I criticize, like why not force these different companies to do certain games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have Rare, who has a plethora of different IP.
Mm-hmm.
You have Ninja Theory. You have a lot of studios
Mm-hmm.
by this point. But what I'm realizing as I'm working with them, and also just like over time, just seeing what Microsoft's vision is uh, is basically creative output, letting these devs make what they actually want to make,
Right.
like basically give them the infrastructure, the money, and just be like create, which can either be a bad thing or a good thing, right?
Right.
Because if you are like that, then that can mean devs get in this cycle of like, oh, I have infinite time, and pressure is good.
Right.
I believe pressure is really good actually, and it forces people to um I don't know, focus their vision. But at the same time, these devs are creating things if that are amazing, and I wish I could go further into that,
Yeah. No. No.
but
That's fine.
I'll just say, like, for example, Grounded. Uh,
Mm.
like Grounded was a side project, in a lot of different ways, from like a smaller team inside of Obsidian,
Mm-hmm.
and if they were just forced to just make, you're only going to make these big AAA IPs. Who knows? Who knows how that would turn out, right? Yeah, you
Right.
might like it, yes, but it's like game developers are game developers because they want to create new things. They want to push the envelope forward, the industry forward, and the only way to do that is to give them some freedom. And try it
Amen.
out.
I agree with that. I mean, and there's a lot of artists, developers, programmers, like you that got into the industry, and there's people building teams. Seems like every day.
Yeah,
So I'm like, hey, of course, there's recruitment from other teams and stuff, but there's a lot of people out there that that get started somewhere, and like
yeah,
you, and then then you've worked on Fable, and I'm sure eventually you'll work somewhere else on another big game. I have a
yeah,
feeling that's going to happen for you. So I just, we'll just leave it at that. But but the point is that the industry is growing. There's so much, work to be done. We've heard like, well, you you can see it like Call of Duty, and you see all the different listings of all the different teams.
yeah,
Hundreds slash thousands of people that worked on that game. Yeah, it's a fantastic game, but
yeah.
whoo, you know,
Like
yeah,
hundreds, thousands of different devs, and
yeah,
what's cool on the Microsoft side of things is a lot of these devs are talking with each other.
yeah,
So, sharing resources, like Microsoft has a lot of studios
mhm,
and a lot of different engines. Now
yes,
when you really think about it, it's crazy how many engines they now own with Slipspace or the ID Tech engine, which is super powerful. By buying Bethesda, they owned a lot of Bethesda's cloud tech that they can put inside of Azure.
mhm,
Um, and a Coalition, who are the masters of the Unreal Engine, right?
yes,
And so
yeah,
if Ninja Theory, for example, is like working on Hellblade, and they want to have like this moment in the game where it's super technically just difficult,
right,
they could contact Coalition, be like, "Hey, we're working on this one section of the game. Do you have any tips? Can you send some devs over?" or
yeah,
and
get
it
another set of eyes on it.
yeah, another set of eyes, and that's what's cool. Like once these studios are acquired, they're basically sharing resources with each other and helping out, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's got to be amazing, and then also, I guess for Microsoft, to try and stay ahead of the game, ahead of that was funny. Um, to be, like I say, cutting edge, but I mean, to be able to take, ideas, engines, developers that have worked on so many different projects, and not necessarily, we don't cutter cookie cutter. I'll get it out
Yeah.
here. Different, different. Like, oh, let's just put this in this. Let's put this in this. But yet, maybe there's something they're trying to do that's similar that they'll be able to assist in to get them over the hump or around the edge, or maybe even take them in a whole new direction that the industry's never seen before,
For
just
sure.
by combining those different ideas together. So
Yeah.
that's the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. I would say with, for example, I use this as an example a lot because I think
Hmm.
it's super impressive, is the Sea of Thieves water.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
if anyone has played Sea of Thieves and you look at that water, I still to this day haven't seen water kind of like that. It has like gigantic waves, and all of all the players that are playing with you can see the same waves. Like that's actually
Hmm.
technically very difficult. Like if this wave is this high, then I'm looking at that wave. You're looking at that wave. Another player is looking at that wave, and it's all that same height.
Hmm.
It's difficult to do that, which is why you get games like Gotham Knights, where it's like a lower frame rate and stuff because of the co-op feature and stuff like
Right.
that. With the tethering is what they kind of described it to be. But yeah, it's difficult doing stuff like that. So that tech is actually running through the cloud. It's one of the first games I can think of
That's so
that has
cool.
used the cloud in that way. Um, so who knows in the future what tech they come up with to solve different solutions in games.
Uh, on a kind of on a side note, um, are you excited that Microsoft is now working with like Kojima?
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
there's some
few,
people out there like, oh, Kojima's overrated. No, he's not.
no,
He's pretty
I think
awesome.
there's few developers left where you're like, for example, in basketball, you're like, oh,
Mhm.
Michael Jordan, like he's the best, he's the GOAT, whatever. And then you have like
Mhm.
LeBron James and look, Kobe. Like you could point to those people and be like, they're something unique or um, interesting about them that where they push the sport forward.
Mhm.
And I would say with game design, there's few of those people left as well. Like I
Yeah.
would say Hideo Kojima is definitely up there with trying to push the industry forward in some crazy way. And he's unique. Like you could hate his games, but I would say like I think he's pushing the medium forward in a lot of other ways. He's like he has his own genre
Mhm.
for what he does,
Yeah.
um, and it's super impressive. Or I forgot the guy's name. It's Nintendo Yoshida something.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I mean, he pushed what he was doing with Nintendo. There's a lot of things he did with Mario games and stuff that
Mhm.
were amazing. And yeah, there's a few of these devs left, so I definitely prop them up when I do see them because there's a lot of big studios that are not trying to push tech forward. They're basically trying to feed us similar games year after year, and they know that'll
Hmm,
get
who
you
could that
money.
be? I'm just kidding.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
so
I'm
so
just
when I
kidding.
do see like a Hideo Kojima, I'm just like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and from what we understand that, and he's pretty excited about I guess, the advantages in the tech that Microsoft now brings in cloud, and that's has probably some kind of relevance to what he's working on. That feels like that the cloud technology is what's really going to put this game that he's developing for them over. In other words, that was what he was really missing. Because I mean, he was originally signed up to do with Stadia deal, and then of course that all
Yeah,
fell apart, and so he had to go, where's the next cloud? Microsoft's like,
yeah.
come to
Microsoft's like the
us.
biggest one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and
We'll do
and I
whatever you need.
remember there's a time where people laughed at the cloud, and I was too, kinda. I mean, I was
Hmm.
just like, I remember Crackdown 3,
Oh yeah.
when they kept showing demos of destruction and stuff, and then they were like, "This is powered by the cloud," and then the game came out, people are like, "This is the cloud?" Right?
Yeah.
But, technology for the cloud has always been, in like, the back of Microsoft's minds of sort of, like, pushing this tech forward because
Hmm.
they kind of see where the industry is headed. I would say the cloud is like a big sort of industry shift. Whether or not will be successful, I think it will. Um, there are a lot of I guess subscription services sort of moving to that, like web design services, where you don't need a program. You're just building the site on our site, and there is
Right.
no save button, right? As soon
Yeah.
as you move something, it's saved. So I think that's just where technology is going.
Hmm.
Um, and you get into this weird space where you're just like, what if I start optimizing my game through the cloud, which means I can push the game's visuals even further. So when we get down that rabbit hole, and we've already sort of seen it with AI, um, you could have tens of thousands of people on the screen, for example, using the cloud because you're not relying on just the Series X, just your phone. You're
Hmm.
relying on thousands of other computers across the country to render out thousands of soldiers on your screen almost instantaneously. So like I love tech.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it going, and that's like the future, and I can't wait to see that.
Well, me either, man. I'll have to agree with you. I can't wait either. I'm excited for the future and what it holds for all of us who love gaming like we do. Well, as we wrap things up, I will say that I have no doubt that your next projects that you go on to are going to be great ones. I have a feeling that you have a great passion for the industry, and if anybody wants to see your work, they can watch an Affleck commercial. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just
They
teasing.
can, they can. Some of it will be airings very soon. So,
There you
uh,
go. There you go.
thank you for having me. I
Oh,
really
dude,
appreciate it.
it
And
was a blast. The
yeah,
last thing I'll kind of throw at you, and this will be the last thing I promise. Is
yep.
So of a game that we all know about, like, so I got to preface that because you might have some inside knowledge that
Yeah.
that's been announced, we should say. What game that's not out yet but it's coming are you most looking forward to? I have an idea what you're going to say, but
Game I'm most looking forward to.
it can be more than one because I have a lot of people do that.
There's a lot. I'll say two.
Okay.
Of course, I'm looking forward to Fable.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Fable coming out.
Me too.
Super talented team, and I think people are going to be impressed when that game comes out. So Fable, and I'll say the second game, I will say I'm really looking forward to Starfield.
Yeah.
That was my most anticipated game this year, so we
Mhm.
got pushed back. Like, dang. So Starfield, Fable, yeah, those are my two, I would say.
That's awesome. It is awesome. Yeah, I'm right
Yeah.
there with you, man. I'm really looking forward to Fable, and looking forward to seeing your name in the credits at some point there. We'll all be looking for that. I got to beat the game first, right?
Yep.
There you go. There you go. 3-bit. Thank you so much for being here and taking time to be on interviewed today. I really appreciate that. Tell people where they can find you. And I don't have everything in the show notes, but you don't mind, tell people where they can reach out to you.
Sure. Again, thanks for having me. I seen your show. A few of my friends have been on here, and keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm loving every single episode that you've been putting out. So
Thank you.
congrats on making such a killer show. But you guys can follow me on Twitter. It's at iThreeBit. I mostly podcast on Mondays with Mav and the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And my YouTube channel is The Video Games HD. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I post a lot of my work randomly on Twitter when I feel like it. I'll be like, here's a commercial I worked on, or me ranting about current gaming topics. So
Yeah.
you'll see me on there. So yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I do appreciate you. And I'll make sure that all that is going to be in the show notes, which will also appear on this YouTube video, but will also appear on the iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio descriptions as well. You can definitely find those easily. And again, thanks for everybody for coming out. If you get a chance, hit the subscribe button for us because we're on our way to 1,000 subscriptions, and we want to get. So yeah, there you go. We'll add another show when that happens. We'll get you one of our live shows when that happens. Ooh,
Yeah, sure.
There we go. 3-bit, thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for joining us here at Outbreak Gamers.
Game over.